Dun 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 dun. What's going on?
There's no intro.
So start with the plot.
Yeah.
Train by day, Joe Rogan by night. All day.
This could be the intro. Yeah. Uh,
Hey, Mom.
I usually do a whole intro, but I don't think we need to do that.
I need no introduction.
You need no introduction. For everybody listening, today's guest, this is a bonus episode. My son, Jacob Goldstein.
What's going on, everybody?
Welcome on.
Thank you.
I didn't know you were gonna do. I didn't know if you were gonna say yes to this because the last time I made you do something like this,
I crushed it.
It was. Yeah, you did crush it. But I thought it'd be good to have like a long form conversation, something a bit more free flowing and
General.
something more general. I do have to say, I am on a fast. I'm an hour, like maybe 17 or 18 of a fast, and they
Really?
promised that they promised that you'd be super clear headed, and I am. I thought I was gonna be like hungry and foggy, but no, I'm sharp as a tack. So
Yeah.
let's do this.
No, a lot of people are doing the fasting now.
I'm doing
like the
intermittent.
one meal a day.
I'm doing intermittents. I'm doing like 7 hours eating and then like 16, 17 hours fast.
My rabbi from my program, one of my favorite guys, Rabbi Clapper,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. But he is doing the intermittent fasting. He does one meal a day, and I think he lost like 200 pounds off it. Like,
Yeah, I
it's-
can't do one meal a day. That would be like not enough meals for me.
Well, he had to do it extreme.
Right, he had to do
obviously,
extreme, but yeah.
But yeah, it's good. I heard it's great.
So you're visiting LA for the summer. Can you give a little bit of background? Bring us up to speed to today. Where were you born? Then give us the series of places that you lived and bring us to.
Last time I told the story of my life, I was on a bus back from a bar mitzvah in Israel, with 60 people, and I was on the microphone in the bus.
Like just telling your story on
telling
the
the
mic.
story. So it's a bit of a different environment, but I was born in New York.
Okay.
Shortly after I moved to New Jersey and lived with you and your parents, my grandparents. I was in Morristown for about the first 6 years of my life, in between New York and New Jersey,
Okay.
because my dad at the time lived in New York. And then you got remarried
Yep.
about that time, and we moved out to LA.
Yep.
Shortly after my dad followed. I was in LA for about another 6 years,
Yeah.
probably till I was like 11, I think.
Yeah.
11, 12.
Yep. I'd say 11 and a half, almost 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had your bar mitzvah in New Jersey, but you came
Yeah.
for that. Okay.
Yeah. And then I went to Chicago for a year when my dad got remarried.
Yep.
And then my dad was like, it's too fucking cold in Chicago, so we're going to Miami, and I've been in Miami ever since. And then last year, Tel Aviv for a year.
That's right.
Yeah.
My God. That's a lot of places.
Yeah.
And tell everybody how old you are.
I'm 18,
Okay.
about to be 19.
So, lot of moving around. And of all the places, what's your favorite?
I get this question all the time.
Because you lived in New York, New Jersey, Brooklyn, Los Angeles, Highland Park, Chicago, Miami, a couple different places in Miami.
Yeah.
And then you were in Tel Aviv for a year, but you
Yeah.
didn't really live there. Where's your favorite?
Well, I'd say, I mean, I lived in Tel Aviv. Like, I lived there.
Yeah,
I was
you did.
there for 8 months. I was in the thick of it. But I'd say my favorite, like, I'm happy I went to high school in Miami. I think
Okay.
it was a great place to go to school.
Why? For what
Um,
reason?
Just the environment, like, it's not like LA is, I don't think I would have liked going to high school here.
Yeah.
I
Why?
don't
The
know, I find
pressure? Like the culture?
the culture, I think. I find like a lot of the kids that come out of high school in LA are just a little bit off. I don't know. I don't know why. It's just the way it is.
Okay.
Like, I think it's something about the culture here, but I love LA. Like,
Yeah.
LA feels like my home.
Okay, good.
It's like really where I developed my identity and like my personality, I think. I mean, I have like the East Coast, West Coast mix, but I think like a pivotal part of my life, like when I was really growing up and like gaining consciousness, was in LA. And so I love LA. I love the food. I love the weather. I love the people. LA's amazing.
All right.
And then fuck New York. New York's terrible.
You're already out the gate with the F-bombs.
Can I not swear?
No, you could swear. I put it on as explicit, but
Yeah,
you know.
I could swear.
Yeah, you could swear. Just a moderate amount.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to show the people that I've raised a, well-mannered young man.
Okay.
Last year you went to school you had a gap year in Israel,
Hmm.
and you visited a tremendous amount of countries. How many countries did you visit last year?
Last year I did 14 countries.
14
Yeah,
countries. Holy shit. Okay. And you described when you came back that you've had like a metamorphosis of self.
I believe so. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what that metamorphosis looked like, what it feels like, what it presents? Because I think there are probably a lot of either parents listening or young people listening that like could be going through metamorphosis of their own kind. What
Mhm.
did yours look like? What are some things you noticed? And then maybe talk a little bit about your travels.
I would say, well, so I tell this to parents all the time. I was like, if you want your kid to grow up, send them away. Like, send them to a foreign place with foreign people that they've never met like before. Force them to be in a new environment. Force them to have to talk to people,
Does
to
it
have
have
to
to be
use their brains.
foreign? Because there
Yeah,
are,
it's got to be foreign.
whoa. So, like, not even within the
No,
US.
you got to send them away.
But
Like,
away could be in the US.
no, not really. I mean, how far
That's
can you?
harsh. A
How?
lot of parents are not willing to send their kids to foreign
And
countries.
that's why their kids are the same
Okay.
as they were 5 years ago. You know what I mean? You have
Right.
to put yourself into a new environment to change.
Well, let's be delicate.
Let's be delicate.
Because parents,
Let's be
they
delicate.
love the, everybody's protective and loves their children and sees no fault in their children.
Right,
But we are
right.
trying to give a perspective of like metamorphosis of self.
Metamorphosis of self. Okay. So honestly, you can do in the US. It has to be different people,
Okay.
right? If your kid's going to Jewish school and you send them to another Jewish school, it's going to be the same kids, right?
So you're asking people to take their kids out of Jewish school.
No, I'm just saying you have to make sure that it's not the same environment and the
Right.
same people. It
Got it.
has to be different,
Okay.
right? And so that's I think the most important thing. And also they have to go with people that they don't know. You know what I mean? Because you end up just relying on the people that you do know, and it doesn't force you to get out of your comfort zone. I think that's the biggest thing is really getting out of your comfort zone. On my trip, so I went to Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
I did 4 countries out there: Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and I went alone. And so I was forced to have probably 500 unique conversations with different people from all over the world,
Yeah.
with different perspectives, different ages, and that had forced me to really come out of my comfort zone and really to expose myself to a new perspective that I had never seen before. And also it's just the practice of being able to just go up to a stranger and start talking to them and make conversation and make friends. um it
What do you see is what do you see is happening like with the young people of today, the kids that are your age or around your age? Are you proud of young people today? Are you feeling like the next generation is showing promise and hope, or are you feeling disheartened by young people today by what you're seeing?
um I'd say generally I'm feeling disheartened. um
For what reason?
I think there's very little authenticity today in young people. I think a lot of people have become followers. A lot of people really have no identity of themselves. They have no drive within themselves. They basically just adopt whatever persona is put onto them and whatever helps them fit in. And so you see a lot of these kids that just really have no self identity and just are basically molded into other people, into whatever social circle that they're in. And I think that that's really sad, and it's extrapolated into a lot of other problems that we're seeing today with young people, like depression
Yeah.
and no motivation, and being disinterested in things, and honestly a lot of drugs. Like, it's a huge problem nowadays.
Yeah.
um
Do you think the drugs are tied into depression or boredom or both?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I also think now we live in such a crazy time where you can walk down the street, go into a store and buy them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, it's more accessible than ever before.
Mm.
I mean, you can go on Telegram in any city in the entire world, look up something, and you'll have drugs in a few hours.
Oh,
It's
great. I'm
yeah,
so glad we just let everybody know that.
yeah. But the access is unparalleled ever before.
Yeah.
Um, and it's becoming a real problem. I mean, for example, like, and now it's the problem now is too is they're just giving them, like, the schools, for example. We know about this, that they're trying to get a lot of these kids on ADHD medication, and antidepressants and mood regulators, and those are printing drug addicts.
What? Yeah, of course. There's a huge link to early amphetamines
Yeah.
and neuro. For any kid who's like neurodivergent, but um, their brains get used to medication.
Yeah.
Why do you think the schools are pushing it so heavily?
I think that's a great question. I mean, you would like to think that your school has the best interests of your kid at mind, but I think that's unfortunately just not the case anymore. I
Right.
think especially with private schools and public schools are a whole nother thing too. I didn't really I went to public school only one year,
I
sorry,
think,
2 years of my life.
yeah,
And so I don't really have the full perspective on a public school, but
I think they're pushing drugs less than private.
I probably yes, but I think they're
Only because maybe
also
they don't have the means or the fact
right,
they don't have the resources
right,
to have like
right,
people that are designated
right.
to doing that, right?
But I mean, I think there are other problems with public schools, but we can
Yeah.
get into that later.
Yeah.
But I think the private schools now are really money hungry.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they'll suck everything out of you, last dollar.
Yeah.
And I don't think they really have any real interest in educating your kid anymore. I think it's
That's a
more about
bold
money.
statement.
Yeah.
I actually don't think I disagree with that.
I mean, I think the quality of education is abysmal. I mean, I know a lot of kids who come out of school and like not only do they not have like the basic education, like the academic education, but they don't have the social education
Yeah.
or the philosophical education that you would hope that someone would have.
So let's take this right. Let's circle it right back. This goes back to these children are not exposed to anyone different than them.
Yeah.
A lot of a lot of private schools are basically just echo chambers of the same sentiments, the same cultures, the same households, the same socioeconomic. So these kids, in many ways, are just getting limited exposure,
The bubbles are real.
which is the
The bubbles are
bubbles
real.
are real.
The
Jacob
bubbles are
Goldstein.
really real. And you see it. I mean, for example, like all the kids, like I'm not gonna say all the kids, but most of the kids in my school, they all went to the same colleges. They all stayed friends. They all, first of all, had grown up with each other their whole lives, and so they're still in this bubble. And you could just see it. It's like the group think is real. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like everyone thinks the same. Everyone has the same opinions. Like, and it's just, I think it's so detrimental to creating fully, fully rounded human
Like
beings,
developed.
well-rounded human beings. Yeah.
So your metamorphosis, you
Yeah.
believe like. Okay, so let me play devil's advocate for a second. Then we're going to bring it back to your metamorphosis of
Sure.
self, because I believe you had one, and I mean I see it. I can
Yeah.
observe it in my child. So okay, I literally just lost my train of thought, which never happens to me.
That's okay. I mean, so I'll just bring it to my metamorphosis.
Okay, wait.
Okay.
Devil's advocate.
Yeah.
These there'll be many people listening that are like, but there's nothing wrong with my child being in a little comfortable love bubble in their school and they're happy with their peers and they're happy and they're not. Why do I need to have an independent thinking kid? Why do I need to have a well-traveled son? My son or my daughter seems really happy in their private school environment. Why would I shake that up?
It's a fair point. All I would say is if you're okay with mediocrity, then fine. If you're okay with not achieving anything, that's great. I mean, most
I
people,
thought Owen had offended
but-
my entire audience. We're
but-
about to double down.
but if I'm being honest, and it used to be that was fine, right? You
Right.
could just be average and get by.
That's true.
In the world we live in today, you cannot be average. In dating, in the workplace, in school, in anything that you want to that you want to succeed in, average is not okay anymore.
Right, that's true.
You cannot be average. And so if you want to, create an exceptional kid, you need to put them in exceptional circumstances. And you need to get them out of their comfort zone, and they need to go through challenge, they need to go through struggle, and that's how you do it. Is you have to put them out of their comfort zone. And them staying with the friends that they've known their whole life in the same school in the same environment is not doing that. And it's only, I think, going against them.
So, how did it present for you? What are some things you noticed about yourself that felt like a huge change or a huge shift?
I think my confidence, I was already confident before, but I saw a real change.
Okay.
I mean, I can, now I just do it all the time for fun, and for practice. But I'll go up to random people, complete strangers, and just start talking to them, like have a conversation, find out where they're from, um, you know, trying to figure out like their thoughts, their ideas. Like I'll just go up to random people and I love just having a conversation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And that will also help you with girls too. If
That's later
you're
in the convo.
later in the combo, but it's a big thing to just be
Yeah.
able to go up to someone and start a conversation.
So part of the travel, part of being exposed to new people, new places, new experiences, are you find out things, you learn things about yourself that you didn't know that you could do, that you
Yeah.
find out you could do,
Yeah.
i.e., learning a city, mapping out a
Hmm.
new city,
Yeah.
finding your place, speaking to strangers,
You
and
find out what you're capable
you
of.
find out what you're capable of.
Yeah.
All right. I love that. That's really cool. I mean, it's exciting to watch your own kid have a metamorphosis,
Yeah.
but I wanted to hear it from your mouth. So we talked about this a little bit, but so this question might be redundant, but maybe not. What are some of the hardest parts about being a young person today? And maybe some of the things that are better about you being a young person today. The way I look at it, I do understand that there are some harder parts, but in
There
many
are
regards, I think
there are some pros for
there are
sure.
some major pros to being born in this time, being young now.
For sure. So the cons. Well, I'll go for the pros first. The
Okay.
pros, I mean, we have a level of access and a level of communication that no other generation has had before. I can make friends with someone in Japan just through my phone. I can get jobs through my phone. You can basically you have the whole world at your fingertips. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The ability to just be, international and global and be able to, you know, you just have all these different opportunities
Yeah.
that people before just never had.
Yeah.
Um,
Even
you
money
know,
making opportunities, really.
1,000%. I mean,
You found a roommate in
a
like
hun-
a week.
exactly, exactly. I mean, it's just we have a total level of access that nobody's had before, and
Okay.
that's a huge advantage. But again, that's can also be a disadvantage.
With all good things comes.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Uh, we also,
Do you feel like
sorry,
the world is kinder to young people now?
absolutely not. The
What?
world is that was gonna be one of the cons. Is
I
people do not give a shit about young people. Like
what?
nobody cares. That's
Let,
that's
let's look at the entire trans movement. That's basically all youth. It's mostly youth, and they're expressing that they don't want to choose an identity. And the predominantly most of the almost all of the large major cities are like, we will get behind this and we will support you. I don't think that's ever happened before in the history of histories.
okay. So
I guess it depends who you ask.
um this is something I cannot talk about
Mindful.
going into college.
I'm not asking whether you're pro or
Okay.
anti the trans movement. This is not a political
Right.
conversation. I'm saying you could see that there are you
On a
movements of
group
youth
on a group basis.
on a group
On a group
level.
basis 100%, but the
Yeah,
individual level, people are feeling more isolated than ever.
but that's not the world not supporting young people. That's a byproduct of the internet. That's a byproduct of the social parameters that we live in now. The digital space moves people farther from one another because there's less. Do you think your generation's going to turn that around and have things be more socially inclined and less
I don't
digitally?
think it's going to be our generation. I think it's going to be the next generation because I
Okay.
think we're going to really go through it the hardest.
Are you
Um
Gen Z?
I don't know. When is Gen
I
Z?
think you're Gen Z.
I think I'm Gen X.
No.
Yeah. Gen Z's a little older,
Okay, we need to look this up.
I think.
Okay.
I might be Gen Z. Regardless, I think it's gonna be the next generation.
Okay.
Like the kids growing, like the kids who are like probably in like elementary school now, like just getting into early teenage years, they're gonna be the ones to do it because right now, I mean, to be it, I really like do not envy teenage girls today. I mean, to be
Specifically girls?
specifically girls and men have it tough too, but specifically girls because a lot of it, like I know, like
Because of
it's
the
gonna be a lot of
impossible.
generalizations now, but
Move behind the
there's
mic. Because of
there
the impossible beauty standards?
impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, to go on Instagram. I mean, it's detrimental for boys too because they think that that's the what a normal girl should look like, but really it's for a girl. I mean, to go on Instagram and you see these supermodels all day long and they're getting all this attention, like that must be destruction for your brain. Like it just me, I can't
Yeah.
even imagine. Like all you do is feel inferior all day,
That's why I won't give Lila social media.
and it's terrible. And
Yeah.
you could see
So
it
you don't
playing
have
out
the
in real
same for
time.
men? You're not like
So the
young?
opposite side for men is porn, right? It's
Right.
porn and just like expecting girls to be something that they're not, and it's that whole other side of it. And that's really bad too. But the thing about that is it plays out more in specific situations, less than a girl, because a girl's thinking about it all day, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
and it's unfortunate.
We are thinking about it all day.
I know, because I mean, I just see like a lot of girls now, unfortunately, are they're deriving their value more from their looks and not from who they are. And it's super apparent.
Do you have any advice for any young girls listening right now that are struggling so much with trying to measure up to an impossible standard, or filtered women online who feel like they will never look like these people, they will never be like these people, and what could they do to try and find some confidence?
It's tough for me because I'm not a girl, right? I
Right.
don't have that. I don't have the same
We'll speak to
perspective.
them from a boy.
We just want to see that you're real. You know what I mean? We want to see that you're not the same as every other girl. You know what I mean? You're not spouting the same things that everyone else hears, right? Like that's honestly the problem I get with most girls now that I like me is like, oh, you're literally the same as every other girl.
In what
Like,
capacity?
and just like their personality, what they like it's almost like
Chock a block.
a chocolate. I can write it down before I meet them. Like I'm
Right.
like, oh, this girl, oh, she's into this, and
Do you
this.
attribute that to the bubble?
I attribute it to the bubble, and I also attribute it to the lack of, like I said earlier, people are not, taking their own ideas, and they're just kind of morphing into what they think people will accept them as. And I think that you need to be more individualistic. You need to find your own passions, things that drive you,
Like go inward.
go inward, and also, like, I would say don't be what you think other people want you to be. You know what I mean? Because then you'll be what nobody wants you to be.
Yeah. Then you're
You've
not what they want to be still, and you've
Yeah,
abandoned yourself.
and you abandon yourself. So now you're nothing. You know
Right.
what I mean? And that's really the worst place you could be.
Okay.
Um,
So pros are you have the world at your fingertips.
Yeah.
I realize we're like this is me and you are like off to the races, but I want to make sure we stay on the path.
okay.
So the pros of being a young person today are you have the world at your fingertips, everything, the digital. That was it. There's only one pro.
Well, okay. So you have the world at your fingertips. Obviously, I mean, like the environment that we have now, like being a young kid's pretty fun. Like
Yeah.
we got a lot of fun shit we can do.
Yeah.
Like a lot of young people are able to travel now more. We're
Yeah.
able to, go out. We're able to have all these experiences, go to raves and concerts, and like we have a lot of great fun things that we can do.
I was gonna
But
say, I feel like it's easier for young people to spread out
Yeah.
farther to get places. Life
Yeah.
feels, in some ways, it's unaffordable, but
the
in many
world
ways,
has become smaller.
the world has become
The
smaller.
world has become smaller.
Well, I wouldn't say it's become smaller. It's become more accessible, especially for young people.
That's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
the world seems so much smaller than before.
Right.
You
And
know
the
what I mean?
cons are nobody cares about young people, or
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
your experience, people don't really. And what do you mean by
That's what I was gonna say. The biggest thing for boys is like most young men today do not feel heard.
okay?
We feel like that all the problems, for example, like the trans movement, like all these things that are being brought up in the media that people are paying attention to, those aren't our problems. Those
Okay.
aren't our struggles.
Right. That's like a 1%.
Exactly.
Nor
Nor 1%.
1%.
Yeah. And so
That's why I do often wonder why it gets so much airtime. It feels interesting that it's less than 1% of the population. We have so many huge issues,
Huge issues.
affecting massive amounts of
Yeah.
people, and yet it's crickets. I often say that there is a war on women. My guests always are hesitant to acknowledge that. But last night you expressed that you feel that there is a war on men.
there's a war on men as well.
Explain what you mean by that.
I think that, society at large now is telling men not to be men. They're telling them don't be masculine, don't be prideful, don't be confident, serve others, don't be individualistic, telling them all these things that are against their own psychology. And
Who's telling young men that?
it's
it's-
everything. It's
it's-
social media, it's the news, it's politics, it's in schools, it's everywhere,
In what I don't.
Well, you're not a man and you're also not young.
That's true.
So, but
But I feel like I'm pretty tapped into like
if you ask most young men today, they'll say the same thing that I'm saying.
they will.
Yeah.
What I and I talked about this with Seth Menachem on the podcast, and he feels like what happened to men is you guys got hammered so hard for the Me Too and like the aggression toward women and approaching women and
Yeah.
hitting on women
Yeah.
that you've now almost to some degree Pendulum swung and
Pendulum. It's the
retreated.
pendulum.
So is that sort of rhetoric that you're talking about
Yeah.
that society is sort of putting on you,
Yeah.
which is like,
All men are
you've
bad.
done this,
Yeah.
swing backward and take it down 17 notches till you're
Exactly.
almost never approaching limit.
Exactly. And I think that men now are just getting walked all over. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like men are not sticking up for themselves. They're not, being strong in their convictions. They're not, they lost their drive.
Mm.
They don't have the same confidence. And I mean, especially young men now, like they're playing video games all day. They're not working out. They're not, doing things that young boys should be
They're not
doing.
hunting.
And they're not hunting. I mean, and it's not about hunting, but it's about being on the hunt, right? You
Okay.
want to be, you need to be actively pursuing something. You need
Yeah.
to
You need to be
be
hungry for something.
you need to be out there. You need to be, exposing yourself to danger. You need to be, having these new experiences. And that's something that a lot of young men are not having today. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of them are depressed and why a lot of them, feel hopeless and not heard. And, I see it with kids today. I see it with a lot of kids that I know. They just kind of feel like they're floating. You know what I mean? They have no real purpose or direction, and they're not confident in themselves. A lot of young men are not confident in themselves. And
Outside of traveling very far from your home, what are some ways that you think young men can gain confidence?
so I tell this to everyone. I think you should start fighting. I think you
Fighting.
need to do jujitsu,
Oh,
MMA,
like a
like
mixed
mixed
martial
martial
art.
arts. Yeah.
Okay.
You need to start doing martial arts 1,000%. I mean, I don't even know how you can call yourself a man if you don't know how to fight. I think that's one of our base prerogatives is to be able to fight and to protect, and especially yourself. But most importantly, others. And I think that's something that 1,000% you should do because I think jujitsu really solves a lot of the problems that we're dealing with today, mixed martial arts in general. It gives you community, it gives you friends, it gives you purpose, it gives you drive, it gives you discipline, it gives you all the things that you need to succeed and to feel happiness in
And the
your
health
life.
benefit, the heart rate.
And forget about and even the it's an amazing workout.
Well, because the antidote, the reason why I say health and heart rate is because depression, one of the leading causes, I think, of depression, and I know this to be true because the antidote for depression is get your heart rate up.
Yeah.
A
The
lot of
endorphins
humans are
and
depressed right now only because they're
yeah.
not working out. They don't move their
Yeah.
bodies. They don't get their heart rate up.
No, exercise is a must.
Must.
That's one
But
thing I
then
could tell to everyone,
yeah,
especially girls, because most girls I know do not work out.
nope.
And they don't try and improve themselves. And I think that's definitely one thing that you have to be doing is working out. Just the base level of confidence that you get from working out will help you in everything else.
It's so true. I definitely felt more confident after I started working out.
Yeah, I think so. That's one thing I'm gonna say also in general is a lack of a desire to improve oneself. People are sad with themselves in their current state, and they have no, you know, desire or they're not putting in any effort to actually improve themselves. And so of course you're going to be depressed. You know what I mean? Of course you're not going to be content with who you are in that moment
Stagnant.
if you're not trying to improve yourself. You need to that's the drive to improve yourself is something that you have to do throughout your entire life. It never ends.
Right.
And these kids aren't even starting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really big factor.
You think parents play a part of that?
100%. I think that you're perfect.
Oh.
I love you the way you are.
Oh, I
you're-
thought you were saying I was perfect.
Oh.
I was like, oh my God,
Hey,
Jacob.
you are perfect. But I think that parenting style and that mentality is killing kids' drive. The participation trophies that you did fine, but that's okay. No, you need to expect results and you need to expect greatness.
So I had a guest on the podcast, Perla. She is pursuing her PhD, and she talked a lot about academic competition and how when you really break it down and you look at the data, the fierce academic competition and competition in school, full stop, really in many regards hurts more than it helps in some capacities. It pins peers against one another. It creates high levels of stress, especially in younger children, right? Is there a way to sort of foster healthy competition without kind of like
But you need stress. You need pressure. How do you gain results otherwise? Like obviously they say pressure makes diamonds. If you're not putting pressure on kids, they're not going to perform. You know what I mean? And that's
But
a
not
good
all
thing.
kids can
And if they're
handle
not getting that, it's better that they get that stress in the classroom
right
than if they get it at home or if they get it in a relationship or if they get it in places that
outside
aren't
world.
healthy,
Yeah.
right? School is the place where they should be getting that pressure and that stress. I think it's a healthy thing.
What happens to kids who can't deal with the pressure?
So what I would say is I think academic academic excellence and the pursuit of it is a good driver for some children,
Mm.
but it's not for everyone, right? Some kids are athletically inclined, some kids are socially inclined, some kids are artistically inclined. And so I think that there has to be different paths. But
Okay.
in all those paths there should be pressure. If you're an athlete, there should be,
Maybe not pressure. Let's just say some healthy competition.
com-
Pressure for me feels
competition
very
and
negative,
pressure. Well, pressure is a good thing.
I guess.
I mean, do you know what how else are you supposed to, extract results?
I
You need
guess.
pressure.
Right. I guess. I was gonna say, am I work pretty hard and I don't work well under pressure, but I realize that's blatantly untrue
Yeah.
because I look at my space and my peer of my industry and
You've
I
probably done your
want to
best
be.
work when you are under pressure.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
I want to be a high performer like the other people in my
look
space.
at all the top law firms, all the top hedge funds, all the top banks.
Yeah.
They expect pressure. They exact pressure onto their candidates, and
Yeah,
in
but those
return, they get the cream of the crop. They get the
those
best.
people often end up like depressed, suicidal, broken relationships. Like I don't know that it's pressure makes diamonds. Pressure is also making a lot of freaking sad, lost, broken people. Pressure for what?
I
At
don't
what?
believe so. I don't
Really?
believe it's the pressure. I think there's many. I think it's the other fact. I think there's other factors
Like
that play into
societal
that. Yeah.
factors.
I think it's the idea that money is everything, and
Hmm,
that if you don't succeed in your career, that you're worthless.
that's true.
But I don't think that's true. I think that there are other ways to contribute to society, and I think that's the reason why especially those like high level professionals, have that depression if they don't make it, or if they're not hired at the best law firm. It's because they think that their career will define them.
Yeah.
But there are so many other ways to derive value from your life.
So you're saying to your parents, if you want to make high performing, high achieving, individualistic, self motivated, self starting, confident children, it's ideal and optimal to send them away from the environments that make them very comfortable and
Hmm.
cush, put them in a new environment,
Hmm.
put them in something that terrifies them,
Yeah.
scares them,
Yeah.
and stop telling them they're perfect all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because nobody's perfect.
Right.
Um, Nobody's perfect, and nobody will ever be perfect.
Where do you think the breakdown happens with a lot of parents and teenagers? Because I feel like a lot of parents struggle with talking to their teenagers, communicating with their teenagers. Like, why does the breakdown happen there?
I think it's because parents expect to be able to control their kids,
Hmm.
and that they expect that they'll be able to, just say something and they're going to listen automatically. But you have to realize that sometimes your kid just has a separate way of thinking than you. You know what I mean? You want to go this way and they want to go that way. And you forcing them the other way is not gonna help them in any way. You know
Right.
what I mean? You have to let your kids, go in the direction that they feel is right for them. And although you may not like it from your point of view, you have to remember that they're a person too, and
Mm.
that they're an individual, and that if you ever want them to be able to make their decisions in the future, that you have to let them make decisions now. And that's something I see with a lot of my friends, and
Oh,
a
me too.
lot of my friends, especially like friends with, immigrant parents, or like,
Mm.
they have the very like authoritarian style of parenting,
Yes.
and they end up just being like unable to make decisions. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
What I
Um,
notice very often with children with immigrant parents and then in general, immigrant parents, because they weren't offered some of the same, they don't have the luxuries and or some of the privileges as we have to just be born American. I notice that there's just a heavy, heavy, heavy focus on education.
hmm,
Education above everything
yeah,
else. Mental health, happiness, well-being. I think it's that this dream, it's like if you come to America and you can get educated, anything's possible.
yeah,
I almost want to flip that on its back and just
it's
tell
not.
immigrant parents, actually, if you just come to America, anything's
Anything's
possible.
possible. Yeah.
But it's very hard to shift that mentality. It's like America, education, everything else is
We
secondary.
take it for granted that you can just, start a website and, start an e-commerce website and make $1 million on the
Yeah.
internet now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's they can't even fathom it. It's not
Yeah.
even possible for them. That there's so many, so many, so many opportunities that we have today in this country, that you can really make in anything. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? If you're smart and you're
Yeah.
creative and you're driven, you can make in literally anything, selling anything. You could sell plants
Yeah.
to a gardener and you're gonna make money.
So wait, so you're saying that the parents just have to relinquish control. You're not gonna
Yeah.
at
You need to
some
let
stage.
go.
What's the age where you think? I guess for
It's
every
at
kid,
every
it's different.
level.
Yeah.
It's at every level,
Yeah.
because there are always decisions that you feel that a child can make at that level,
Hmm.
right? Even if it's for a 5-year-old, telling them, are you like I have to think. I'm trying to think of a good example, but like there
Yeah.
are
No, I
decisions that
understand.
a child can make at every single level of their life.
Yeah.
And then my opinion is that you should let them make decisions slightly above that. You know
Right.
what I mean? You should
Agree.
push them a little bit farther
Yeah.
and give them a little bit more of that authority and that responsibility in themselves, and they'll start to just take it on their own.
Do you feel like me and your dad did that with you?
1,000%. I
Okay.
mean, I'll like almost for all I can remember, like for all everything I can remember, you always let me choose my own path. You always asked me what I wanted to do, and I think that served me really well later in life.
What about, I would agree. What about children? What about parents who just don't believe I had a deep knowing that I mean, it's very clear you're articulate and well thought out, you're a thoughtful young individual. What about parents that just quite blatantly don't have faith that their children are going to make the right choice? Very hard to give your kids autonomy when you don't believe your kids are making, and also
And
don't
that's
forget,
when
many kids are not making the right choice.
and that's when you need to do it the most. You know what I mean? That's where you
Oh,
that's where you know that you have to let your kid touch the fire to get burned so that they know not to do it again. You know what I mean? As long as much as you don't want them to do it, it's like that with everything though. You know, you see the moms that like, "Oh, you can never watch TV, you can never eat sweets." And then they have, TV binge watchers and, kids
yeah,
with eating
with
disorders.
a hundred
You know what
percent.
I mean? And so you have to let your kid go into it a little bit
Mm,
just so they know so they can learn themselves. Um, and if you don't have faith in your kid, then who is gonna have faith in your kid?
yeah,
You know what I mean? If
that's
you
true.
can't even have the confidence that you raise your kid right, that they can make decisions for themselves, then why are you expecting a future boss to do it? Why are you expecting a future partner to believe that?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You have to have faith in your kid.
that's
That's your
so
only job, really.
that's a really good point. What do you identify as? And I don't mean male or female. I mean, do you identify first as like a man? Do you identify first as a Jew? What do you like out in the world? Who's Jacob? What do you identify as first and foremost?
Why do I need to identify as something?
I don't know. I think it's a part of our grounding. It's a part of our root system. What keeps you from blowing away when you go to another country? What makes one kid more successful out in the world with the unknowns and the big wins, if not for the grounding of who you are?
Well, I'd say I'm Jacob first. I'm myself. I have
Okay.
my own ideas. I have my own thoughts. I have my own, my own incentives and my own drives. And then I'd say I'm a bunch of other things equally. I'm Jewish. I'm American. I have my family who grounds me. I have my school, and I have, the things that I'm interested in.
Mm,
Um, it's really. I mean, I don't think I could ever put it into one thing, right?
okay.
I'm like a big pie chart. One thing can't really describe you.
Okay. That's interesting
Um,
because I sometimes think about myself. I'm like, do I identify like first by my race, by my religion? But I don't know. I think for young people,
have you ever met
things are,
someone who derives their identity from one thing?
yes,
And are they not sad people?
it's deeply problematic.
Deeply
You're right.
problematic. I mean, that's what makes someone interesting is they have all these different, things
Yeah.
that they can pull
Yeah.
from and all like this whole mosaic of different thoughts and ideas and backgrounds and experiences that makes them interesting.
I guess that comes once again full circle back to the bubble.
Yeah.
If you are trying, if let's say if we're
Thousand
appealing
percent.
to the moms, you don't want to have an independent free thinker, you don't want to have a kid who travels to Europe or any of the other places, you don't want to have that, fine. You probably want an interesting kid.
Yeah.
Everybody wants an interesting kid.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I guess I don't know. I can't speak for other parents. For me, it was a deep core value that my children be interesting
Right.
to talk to
So,
engage with.
so on that, but you also have to think like that core value for you is a very, you know, American one. I think that's a very American thing that you
That's
want
true.
your kid to be individualistic
That's true.
and, and self-sufficient. Like I know because I grew up in Miami, and so like a lot of my friends were South American. Like South American moms do not think that way.
Right.
The most important thing to them is that their kid,
Stays close to home.
stays close to home, gets a good job, provides for the
Wait,
family,
first gets a good education.
gets a good education, has a good job,
Yeah,
provides for the family, stays close to home. They're much less concerned about whether their kid's interesting or not.
that's true.
They really couldn't care less, honestly.
Right. That's true. I guess every parent's core value is different. A
Yeah.
large demographic of my audience,
Probably a large part of your demographic will be, I need my kid to be Jewish. I need my kid to
religious.
be religious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. God
Um,
fearing.
God fearing. Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Um,
But within that,
there's
you could
more.
still have, I mean, I meet a lot of orthodox, interesting
Yeah.
individual
Yeah.
thinkers. I mean, it says, but by the way, something I do notice. I will say, I mean, just quick shout out to like the Chabad movement. I will
Yeah.
say Chabad youth are extremely interesting,
Chabad
well
does it
traveled.
right. Chabad does it
However,
right.
but what is the distinction between the Chabad sect and a lot
We
of other
go all we
sects?
go all over the world.
We travel.
Yeah.
We go all over the world.
When I went to a I was at Chabad in Thailand for Passover, and I was at a Seder, and like you saw Jews from all over the world.
Yeah.
Japanese Jews,
Yeah.
Indian Jews, Bangladeshi Jews, Jews from all over Southeast Asia, Africa, the Middle East. Like there are Jews everywhere, and you can be Jewish in many different places.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people think like, oh, I can't travel, you know, like I'm Jewish, I keep kosher. Like if you want to do it, there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, they do. I mean, the Jews have spread
The Jews have
far
spread,
and
yeah,
wide.
yeah. But honestly, not far enough, I think.
Oh my God. Okay. I feel like there's Jews everywhere in every country.
Yeah, but also no.
Right.
I mean, actually, okay, so I'm gonna be like, so we don't have to go everywhere. There's some places we don't really belong,
True.
but like also get out there. You know what I
Mm.
mean? That's one thing. That's one of the things that I find with like, especially like religious girls who I talk to. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you've really never been anywhere
Right.
or seen anything.
Well, typically the girls are kept a little closer to home.
I know.
What excites you about the future?
Well, I think, well, I'm very into technology.
Mm.
I think that technology is going to all sorts of amazing and wild places.
Yeah.
I think that we're gonna have things in the future, in the very near future, that people couldn't even dream of or imagine before, and that's really exciting. I think that um, my future partner excites me. You know, the
Aw.
thought of that, like, that's something I'm very excited for. Finding her is gonna be a different problem, but
Yeah.
the eventual thought is nice.
I think you're going to have a
Um,
long journey there.
I think so too. Like everything else in my
Only
life has
just
been a
based
long
on
journey,
just
but
knowing the kind of expectations you have of a
yeah,
partner.
yeah.
High expectations.
Well, my whole life has been a long journey, so
That's true.
um, but it's a good thing.
Mm.
Um, you know, I'm excited to get out in the world. I'm excited to be a professional. You know, I started like, you know, working really for the first time this summer, which is really great, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm excited to, you know, get out there and like work and get on the grind.
Okay.
Um,
Does hard
and
work
I'm
scare you?
excited to just to see how things play out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a big like I love history.
Yeah.
I love studying history.
Yeah. You're like huge into like
Yeah, history,
American, not just world war,
anthropology,
world history.
yeah, world history, all sorts of stuff like that. And so like just to see how things play out is fascinating to
Mm.
me. You know what I mean? Seeing the way that the world is going is one, it's concerning, but it's also interesting. You know what I mean? And
Yesterday, you expressed a deep concern that we're long overdue for basically a collapse.
yeah,
That if we follow the patterns of history, we're in an era now where we should be seeing a massive, I guess, a world power collapse.
a world power collapse, but also an economic collapse. We're
Mm.
long over. I mean, so we had those two mini recessions, you know,
Yeah.
2000, 2008,
Yeah.
but we're in line for a depression, just historically speaking. And but something that also comes with that is, you know, you also learn that the world always goes on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For as long as we've had such terrible tragedies throughout
Yeah.
the world, and it was must have, and in the moment you think it must have been easy to just give up and be like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
But the world always moves on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Even through the toughest of times.
We've talked about this at length, but it bears repeating. Like, I believe, and I think you agree with me, that the next chapter of U.S. history, of world history, but I'm mostly concerned with what affects our country, because
But
we
U.S. history is world history now.
true.
That's just the way
Okay,
it
yes,
is.
good
Yeah.
point. But like, it's going to not be a test of physical strength or even, I don't even think financial strength. I think
Yeah.
truly, because there are going to be, I believe there are going to be some great equalizers, regardless of your socioeconomics. I think there's going to be some great equalizers. Like AI is going to change even the very wealthy. It's going to change their industries, and it's probably going to change their lives, some better, for some worse.
Yeah.
But it's going to be mental fortitude.
I agree. It's
Like keeping your wits about you is going to be the greatest, most valuable skill that you're going to
1000%.
need.
Well, I think that's like really the biggest problem. The thing that's really, you know, driving us towards this thing is people are becoming zombies.
Yeah.
Like they have no thoughts of their own. They have no, you know, foresight. They have no. They don't care to learn really. And like you just see these people like just because it's said on the news, they believe it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like they could say anything and they'll believe it. And I think that's like one of the biggest problems is there's no individuality of thought.
Yeah.
And there's no, people are not, setting their own course. They're
Yeah.
just going along with wherever the wind blows them. And I think that that's really going to be a problem. I think people need to, first of all, set lines. They need to say, I will not be pushed past this point. Um, I need to set values. I need to have my own convictions, and I won't be pushed past those points, and I won't just be pushed around, and I won't accept any thoughts that are put onto me. I need to have my own way of thinking, and I need to be strong in those.
What are some of your personal core values?
Um, I'm big into, like, I guess, family values. Like, I think it's very important that people should have families, big families,
Big family.
big families.
Interesting, because you don't
Yeah.
like. I guess you do come from a big family now. If you blend everybody
My
together.
family's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you talking about?
True.
Like, yes, my immediate family is a bit
Yeah.
splintered, but
Splintered. That's
but
an interesting way to put it.
yeah, but my overall family is huge. I have aunts and uncles
Yeah.
and cousins and grandparents and second cousins, and I have a clan. You know
So
what I mean?
one of your core values is have family, strong family values. That means like I'm guessing a mother father unit.
If you can,
Okay.
yeah.
And
But it's
family.
not necessary.
Okay.
There are ways to make it out, but I think you need. Even when I was just with you, I always had my uncles. I always had some male role model,
Okay.
and some male energy around me,
Okay.
and that's something that you need. Even
Okay.
if it's not a dad, there needs to be some male.
Okay.
Um,
What else
role models.
after family values? Strong family values.
I think you need to hold yourself to standards. I think you need to, expect certain things from yourselves. I think a value that's very important to me is being healthy. I think if you can't take care of your body at the minimum, then you can't really take care of anything else. I think you need to make sure that you're healthy and that your mind's working and that your body's working and that, you're just functioning on a basic, health level.
So taking care of your health,
Taking care of
strong
your health.
family values.
Yeah. And then I also think education is very important. You need to be worldly. You need to have experiences. You need to, and I don't mean education in the traditional sense.
Just expanding your
mind.
however that
Yeah.
looks to you.
However that looks to you, whether it's art or travel or, learning about history or learning about math, whatever it is, you need to be intaking knowledge and constantly adding.
Okay.
I think that's very important. And I think just integrity and kindness. You know what I mean? I think that's something we're really lacking today is most people do not have integrity anymore.
Yeah.
They're not responsible for their own actions.
Yeah.
They try and blame things on others. They try and get out of things. And I think that's one thing that my dad taught me especially was like you need to have integrity. You need to man up to what you did and you need to deal with the consequences.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think you're right. I think that is a lot of forget young people, a lot of
People in general.
Everyone's going to blame the government,
Yeah.
their parents, their mother,
Yeah.
this one, that one,
Yeah.
anything but taking responsibility.
Yeah.
There's a very famous, a lot of people say it, I see it in memes, I see it everywhere. It's like, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's your
Doesn't
fault.
matter whose fault it is.
Yeah. Life
You got to deal with
happens.
it.
Yeah.
Can we cut for a second? I gotta have my vape. I'm sorry.
Oh my
Been
God.
talking for a while.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Here I am once again trying to tell the audience that I'm raising a well-mannered, dignified young man, and you rip out your vape.
Does Joe Rogan, when people come on his podcast, tell them not to do DMT?
I have lost all credibility with my audience now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I vape?
Yeah. I'm anti-vape. All right, quick question.
Just keep it rolling.
It's the artificial peach. It's the artificial peach scent for me.
Oh, is it?
You know what? You just told the audience that you feel you should be taking care of your health.
I know,
Does
but
this
I do
fall
have,
under-
everybody's got vices,
Oh, well,
I don't blame anyone for that.
I really wish you would not vape.
I know. I really wish I wouldn't vape either.
Do you have any tips for guys for how to approach women?
Yeah.
How do you think women like to be approached? Because I saw you approach someone at the Grove the other day, and it felt a little aggressive.
Well, it wasn't aggressive at all. It was actually really nice and friendly.
But you just straight up asked for her number.
Yeah.
There was no small talk.
That's true. Small talk is important.
Very.
Okay, listen, I'm not perfect at it yet. I'm okay. I have to, I'm
Yeah.
still young. I gotta build
Yeah,
up,
you're
but
still only 18.
it's a
Let's
tough
start
one.
with this question. Let's start with this question. Why do you think young men or men, full stop, forget young men. A
Are
lot of this
struggling with women.
conversation could actually span to men of all
A
ages and
hundred
women of all
percent.
ages.
100%.
Why are men so terrified of women?
Well, you
Where
guys are
is
terrifying.
what?
You guys like
How dare you?
you don't like to show your emotion. You don't like to, build us up. You don't like to I mean, you guys are scary. You guys really don't love to, build us up,
It's true. I
really.
want to say if I was when I
You
was
love to tear us down.
yeah, when I was a young girl, and even now I know I see my friends when we're sitting at a bar or we're sitting in a social situation and there's men. I do notice within my social circles, we're first kind of tearing them apart.
Yeah.
We almost want them to fail at what they're
Yeah.
about to do.
Exactly.
Whoa. Why
Exactly.
are we doing
I don't
that?
know why you're doing that, and it really just turns men off, and it really just, makes them scared to even approach you in the first place. You know what I mean? Like,
So men are terrified of women because women are terrifying.
yeah.
And we don't set you up to succeed.
You don't set us up to succeed.
What could we do better?
Honestly, this is like one thing I say, like when girls like a guy and they want to like, make a move on them, I'm like, just give them a compliment. Most men don't ever get compliments. Like, go up and be like, I love your eyes, I love your style. Like, you'll make a guy's heart melt. You have no idea.
So once
You
again,
have no
are girls
idea.
supposed to be the aggressors?
No, but like, just
Make
give
it a
a
safe.
compliment.
Okay.
Yeah, like just you know what I mean. Lighten the mood a little. Men like girls take it for granted when they get compliments because they get compliments all the time. Oh my god, I love your hair. Oh my god,
That's
you
true.
look perfect. Men do not get
That's
compliments,
so true.
especially from our friends. All our friends do is shit on us all the time. They're like, I'm like, I go out and I'll be like, oh, you guys ready to go out? My friends will be like, what the fuck are you wearing, dumbass? You look like an idiot. And I'm like, fuck, okay. And so like, if we're not getting it from our guy friends, like. That's the woman's job, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
make us feel special, make us feel heard.
At the very
That's all we
least,
want.
if girls will to a lot of women, I mean, just
That's all guys want.
you're
Make them feel special.
you're in the you are exposed and were raised by, let's just call a spade a spade, of a highly confident woman.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm an anomaly.
Yeah. Most women are not confident.
Let's talk about your average
Girls
girl
don't.
is not gonna walk up to a guy and be like, I love your pants, I love your
It doesn't
eyes.
need
He
to be
looks like
that. It doesn't need to be that. You know what I
right.
mean? It just needs to be like that small amount of like confirmation, like
Okay.
that little just like push in the right direction. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Or even just how about a
Women are
gentle smile?
women are yeah.
They
Women,
look over at you and you
they're so
smile
cold
like
now.
this is a safe space for you to come
Yeah.
talk to me.
Women are so cold now.
Okay, so you know how you have the same you feel like society is talking to you a certain way? I feel in many ways society is telling women men are not safe.
Yeah.
They are not to be trusted.
Yeah.
They're predatorial.
hmm
So you could imagine
And
for
most men are
young,
not.
of course not.
Most men just wanna.
They
Most men just want a compliment.
I know.
Just make them
They
feel
just want a
nice.
nice companion. They want a nice
Make them feel all warm and fuzzy inside. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like
yeah.
that's what it's about. And I think if you can do that as a woman, you're gonna have a lot of success.
Interesting.
And then as a man, again, it's building confidence.
Mm.
You have to be confident. You know what I mean? And even if you're a little awkward, that's fine. But you have to make the move. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You got to go over there and you got to, just
You have
start
to
the
do the
conversation.
uncomfortable thing.
I watch a guy on YouTube. His name's like the Daily Dropout or something. He just makes videos, but basically he just goes on college campuses and he'll just say like he'll act like really awkward. Like he'll go up. His whole thing is he goes up to girls and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's like his whole thing. But like he'll just even sometimes he'll be super awkward and basically spout complete nonsense. He'll be like, "Oh, did you hear about NASA?" And but I think you're very beautiful. Like he'll just say random stuff, but like it still works. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you just have to make the first move and you have to, just do it.
What I'm hearing you
just
say
do
is men are not that complicated and women are not that complicated.
No,
Why are we complicating it?
I don't know. I don't even know. I feel like sometimes I feel like a lot of the success I've had with girls is just kind of luck. Like I just flunk into it, but like also, I mean, I think it's just you just have to be aggressive. You know what I mean? Like not aggressive in that fact, but like you just got to keep. It's really for guys now. It's a numbers game almost. Like you
Yeah.
have to go up to as many girls as possible.
Oh my
You know
god.
what I mean? And most will probably reject you, but
Yeah.
that's fine. You just build confidence.
Yeah.
You build the tolerance to it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I you know, in many ways I look out at society and I worry about what the future holds because of all the things you mentioned today and just thinking about what young people are going through and exposed to like never before. When I was young, I didn't have to look at 1,000,000,000 supermodels. I didn't have to
Yeah.
look at a bunch of. We also didn't have the Andrew Tates, which I know he's your Lord and Savior. But from a woman's perspective, Andrew Tate's terrifying for the youth.
I mean, I don't think we should get into this, but
Well, I do.
I think Andrew Tate is telling young men exactly what they need to be now,
You
which
don't
is
feel that.
accountable. You know, they need to be driven, they need to be disciplined, they need to work out, they need to be strong, they need to build confidence, they need to have stories, they need to have done things that, put them out of their comfort zone.
Did Andrew Tate mention
Because
that one of the stories you should have is, I don't know, being arrested for child trafficking?
yeah, but the charges were never brought against him and he's out of prison now.
You don't believe there's
I don't think he did it.
there's a
I think
smidge of
he's
misogyny within his content.
okay. I'm gonna say this: he's definitely a slime ball. 1,000% he's a slime ball,
And millions
and he's
of
been in all sorts of he's not
Okay,
he's
so-
not a stand-up
but
guy.
he's speaking to the youth.
But is anybody a stand-up guy nowadays? You know what I mean? Like, look at our politicians. Look at the people who we are listening to. Are they any better? The actors, the actresses, the social media influencers, are they good? And are they even giving a good message? Are they even telling kids what they should be doing?
I think it's
Because when I listen to Andrew Tate, he tells me this. He tells me, go work out, go get strong, go get educated, go learn about the world. Go out of your comfort zone, protect women, be strong.
he says protect women.
Yeah. He
I've
says you should
heard him
provide and
say that
protect for
women should be producing children in the kitchen. You weren't raised by a woman who was
It's
following.
hyperbole. It's hyperbole.
Okay.
Anyways,
Okay. So you feel like his messaging is overall.
I think it's a positive message that he sends. I think his actions may be one thing, but I think his message is good for young kids, and I think that's what young men are missing now.
Okay. What's your stance on drugs? We're in a drug crisis.
We are in a drug crisis.
We attribute some of that to the depression, lack of, I want to say lack of community, spirituality,
100%.
healthy minds, healthy bodies,
100%.
right? Like a bored, understimulated, unhealthy mind who feels generally lonely and without purpose is going to find drugs because they're easy. They make you feel good. They distract you and you don't have to think about shit. And for those moments, you feel kind of powerful or you at least feel distracted.
Well, so I kind of have my dad's point of view on this, and he's gonna hate me for saying this.
Sit back.
He's gonna hate me for saying this, but I think everything in moderation.
I don't
I
disagree.
think that you're never gonna get your kid to never touch drugs. It's a fantasy at this point. They're always gonna be exposed to it at some point. They're always gonna have the option to be like. They're always gonna have the opportunity, and so you just have to teach them the message like, don't ever do drugs. They're terrible for you. They'll kill you. It's going to be the end of your life. Like, no, that's not the way to go about it. You know what I mean? And it's also just not the truth.
It's
right?
not the truth.
And so,
Your dad's getting credit for this?
I mean,
For this liberal view on drugs?
no, but it's his approach,
Okay.
which is everything in moderation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think obviously now he'd prefer that I never touch anything in my life. But
Yeah.
again, I think he also realizes subconsciously that that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he knows that on a real level.
Yep.
And so he tells me everything in moderation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you have to teach your kids a healthy approach to it, and that it's not that they should never ever do it in their life, but they should do it in a smart way and with people they trust in safe environments, with drugs that are safe, because that's really a problem nowadays.
Yep.
If you're listening to this, never buy drugs off the street anymore
Yep.
because they're almost 1,000% laced with fentanyl.
Yep.
And I don't know, stick to weed and alcohol. Like really,
Yeah, weed and alcohol is
don't
really...
the hard drugs. I mean, they're hard to defend.
Yeah.
So you just stick with weed and alcohol.
Yeah. All right, and in closing, well, actually, two closing questions. One, can you name a few of your role models?
Yeah. I love Joe Rogan.
Okay.
I love Anthony Bourdain.
Well, he's passed,
He's passed.
but he was a great role model.
He was a great role model. I love Andrew Huberman.
Okay.
I love I have my dad, who I think is a great role model. I have you, who I think is a great role model. All my uncles are amazing.
Yeah.
I always say this, like I say this all the time, but most kids don't get one good parent. I got 4 great parents.
Oh.
And so I'm just extremely blessed in that way that I have such an amazing family. And they're obviously huge in my life.
Yeah.
Both my grandparents on both sides are amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I think that those people really, inspired me, and I've taken a lot of my ideas and my way of life from them, and they're big inspirations to me.
Okay. And in a crazy, uncertain world where a lot of things are unsure and not promised, tomorrow is not promised, how do you keep yourself grounded? How do you keep yourself in a healthy mindset so you could stay away from all of these things that we just talked about and
Yeah.
kind of stay on a pollen path? How do you do that?
I think you got to cut a lot of things out. Don't listen to the news every day. Don't listen to all these different people who are going to tell you that the world is terrible and that everything's going to shit. And they might be right, but regardless, it doesn't help to listen to them. You know
Right.
what I mean? You kind of have to just live in the moment, live in the present. Don't think about the past. Don't think about the future. Just live every day as if it's its own day, and make the best out of it. Whenever you see an opportunity to get out, whenever you see an opportunity to meet someone new, whenever you see an opportunity to have a good experience, take it. You know what I mean? Because those opportunities are limited, and you never know what can happen.
I
You
love
never
that.
know what you can learn.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this today. You are, I,
I didn't
I'm
have a
gonna just say, I
choice.
think you were my, yeah, you didn't have
I
a
didn't have a
choice,
choice.
but I think you were my favorite guest. I think,
Oh, you're just saying that.
no, I think you were, but I appreciate you bringing your honesty, your openness, your thoughts. I think a lot of young people are gonna hear this, and I think it's gonna be, I think you're gonna help people.
Hopefully,
So
hopefully nobody in my college hears this.
yeah, why not?
It's hard to have strong opinions going into school nowadays.
Fuck that noise.
Fuck that
You do
noise.
you.
Fuck that noise though.
Thank you.